Welcome to the Wolf Mother podcast. My name is Dana Harkis, and as always, we will begin by taking 3 deep breaths. So wherever you're at, just take a deep breath in through your nose. Softly let that out of your mouth. Deep breath in again through your nose. Softly out of your mouth. Last time, deep breath in. Hold it for a moment at the top. As you hold it, just see if you can soften your body for the moment. When I say 1, you'll let it out with a nice sigh. 3, 2, 1. Today's topic will be authenticity, originality, and copying other people's shit. This is a conversation that I've had for many years, but as of right now, I don't think there's anyone that's copying any of my captions or offerings right now. But about 2 months ago, the conversation started with a one-to-one client that I have and then a friend. 2 very different situations that were brought to my attention just to, in relation to my friend, just someone to vent to. For the client, someone to be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do about this situation? And over the last 2 months, this conversation has just become more and more apparent of people not really creating things from their inside world out, but rather seeing what other people are doing and copying it. And, not really taking the time or the effort or the work to get themselves there naturally, but maybe just trying to, I really like that this person does this, or like in my case years ago, I really like that Dan does her classes this way, so I'm going to do exactly that, but with just me as the teacher. So there's so many things to hit on in this conversation. So, right, originality and authenticity. So let's leave like the copying people's shit to the side for a second, and we'll get into how that can be very dangerous in certain offerings. But for right now, we'll talk about originality and authenticity. One of the most beautiful things that I am always so grateful that people have always applauded me on or brought up to me in conversation is the fact that they're like, I love how authentically you are. Being as authentically myself as I am has apparently came with certain downsides over the years, that I put things out into the world and people will just like completely copy the whole thing. And okay, yes, it's a different person who's saying the words, it's a different person who's hosting the gathering. But it really sucks when you create something from the inside out, authentically, when you really bring something fully together and then someone enjoys it so much that they just rip the whole thing off. So now originality and authenticity, I think, is often lost in today's world. And now this is something, although we're speaking in terms of copying people's shit, so we're really talking in terms of like spirituality and self-help business these days, which we're all kind of copying each other. If we bring it down, if we boil it all the way down, all of the things that we do have came for centuries before us. And even though I might have had the thought on my own to create it that way and put it out there that way, I am sure there are people that have walked this earth that have done it that way before. And maybe I just wasn't taught that by someone, but there was probably someone who has already done it before. And that's where this conversation gets so difficult and tricky. But authenticity and originality is often lost in today's world, right? There's endless amounts of research that you can do to just see what worked for someone else and then implement it. And hopefully it just works out for you in the same way or better. When we talk about authenticity and originality in terms of copying other people's shit, it's a little different than people living authentically and living in their like original true self. This is something that is so lost in our society, which I feel like we're pack animals, right? We're cute. We need to do things as a group. But I can relate it to the idea of when you were young and when you were in elementary school and you probably had a friend who you did something and they really thought it was cool, so they copied it. Because we're all trying to just find out and figure out who we are and what we are when we're younger. But I understand the frustration when I speak to adults that are like, just fucking be you and stop trying to be me. Or stop trying to be so-and-so. Like, just be who you are. A lot of people lack that depth to figure out who they are. A lot of people have wounding against being their true, authentic, and original selves because maybe when they tried to do that or be that when they were a child, the adults around them were not accepting of it or told them that they needed to act a certain way or be a certain way or change, right? So a lot of the reasons and ways that we act when we become adults are because of certain things that happened when we were children. We know that. We're not going into the inner child discussion like fully, but it's important to know that when I have conversations with my clients and they're like, well, why the fuck can't they just be themselves? I've had those thoughts as well. But that is potentially one of those reasons why they struggle to be authentically or originally themselves. So that is in terms of that point, right? Now, in terms of business, I'm so sorry, I never listen back to these. So I assume you guys can hear me when I drink my tea or my water, but I apologize because I actually have no idea. And I'm lazy as fuck. I don't edit any of this stuff. So anyway, when it comes to authenticity and originality in business, now this is where we get into the like copying people's shit and how devastating it can be when you really meditated on something and really sat with yourself and really created this from the inside out, and someone just takes what you did and just boom, plugs it into something else and just does what you were doing. It can be really devastating. So in terms of authenticity and originality, in terms of business, I did a mastermind and I was blessed to be able to have a conversation with a lawyer. And that lawyer did say to me, like, we can patent your retreat layouts. Because at the time I was having people that were, it wasn't the retreats, thankfully, but it was classes that were being copied. It was literal like captions that I was writing. All of the captions that I have written, we have a visit from Jesus. We have a big bumblebee. What a beautiful blessing. Jesus loves the conversation. I have written all of my captions myself over the last few years. And if I didn't write them, I usually put them in quotes with someone else's name. Sometimes I will put them with quotes because it's a capture that I've already shared that I've written. And then I'll write the date at which it was. So I've written all my captions. If you're a part of my email list, sometimes you'll see that I include other things that other people have said, but I always put their name if I can. Because I feel like that's important. When it came to even like the writing that I have shared, like it's the writing that I have went deep inside myself to pull out these vulnerable parts of me to string these beautiful words together that obviously have made an impact on someone else who is reading them, which is so fucking beautiful, but can be so devastating when you're like, damn, like, is this person going to continue to take this from me? I can also relate this to a conversation that I had with a client friend recently, where they had something of theirs that they had created that someone else was using, that they had a very bad falling out, but this person chose to use the graphics that they made for something. And that person was like, yeah, I'm going to use those graphics to promote my business, which is crazy. Because I feel like when I've said to someone, like, could you please not copy this? And they say, it's really not that big of a deal. Okay, so then you fucking write something. If it's not that big of a deal, then you make the fucking graphics. Because I took the time out of my life to create this. I took the time out of my life to write this. I'm not going to go too deep into this right now, but because I want to get to what's unsafe about copying people's offerings. What's unsafe about copying people's offerings? I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But this is where also the like chat GPT and like the AI stuff also comes in, that it's really difficult because it can copy anything we do, which is kind of cool. And I know it helps people out, But for those that are creatives, and there's a ton of like AI'd books now on Amazon and stuff, and there are authors that have said, I've struggled because at this point I have written something and now AI came in and basically completely copied my book, but maybe just like with different words, and it's able to get away with it. So there's a lot of this happening. The more technology I think comes out to quote unquote benefit us, the more that us as creatives are really gonna have to step up to the plate, because we're gonna have to really stand out from the AI'd creation shit that's out there. So now I want to bring it to the point of what I've experienced. And there are just so many examples that I really want to give, because I've been having these conversations behind closed doors for years. And in the last 2 months, I've been having a lot of these conversations, and I'm like, okay, so usually what that means for me is there's people on the internet that watch and listen to my stuff that want to have these conversations, but don't have someone to have these conversations with. So years ago, I was devastated because it took me so long to figure out the layout of these 3-hour classes that I used to host. And it took me a long time to like get in the groove and like figure out like what did people like, what didn't people like. My whole business this whole time has been trial and error. And last year I made a post about the fact that when you do something and create it in your inner world and then you birth it into the physical world, it means so much more than if someone came along and said, hey, here's your layout, now go do it. Granted, I know that there are people in this world that are like, if the shortcuts are out there, why wouldn't I take them? For me personally, that doesn't feel original and authentic for me. If you're listening to this and you're like, I love shortcuts, I'm taking the shortcut when I make these videos and podcasts, because I do no editing and I'm like, here it is. Hopefully people listen. But if you're like, I love shortcuts, if there are layouts out there, why wouldn't I just use these layouts that people have trial and errored? And I understand that from a business standpoint, if people have already gone through the trial and error, you should take what works really well and do it and see how you can just make it better for you. But for me personally, I have enjoyed, and my classes, my one-to-one sessions, my retreats mean so much more to me. This is my opinion. They mean more to me. And I believe, again, this is my opinion, but I believe my clientele enjoys my stuff more because they see how much time, effort, and energy I have taken to understand my own originality and authenticity to create these offerings. My opinion. I stand by it. So I was so sad years ago when there was someone that was constantly like taking my captions, and then I found out that someone was literally like, the layout that I had for my classes was being used. I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. But that's the thing, is that there's also this fine line that happens, right? Because we have teachers, and we learn from our teachers, and we go to certain events, and we go to certain workshops, and we go to certain retreats, and we find things that we really enjoy that we would love to share with our people. So there's a fine line of being like, I love this teacher, I love their teachings, and I want to respect what they do. And also at the same time, not copy exactly what they do. There are people that disagree with me. There are people that feel like, if you like what I do, then you should just copy it for yourself because you have a different energy than me and you should make money off of it in the way that you want to make money off of it. I have my own opinion. And I really feel like when you build something from your inner world and then you put it out into your world, that's what I want for all my clients. That's what I want for all my community. I want you to find what is born into your inner world. And maybe what's born into your inner world is extremely similar to what I do. But sit with yourself and find that before you put something out. Don't just naturally go, well, I don't have the time to sit with my inner world because I want to make money or I want to keep up with the businesses that are growing. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to do it myself. I do know someone who, they were very upset, but this is the thing. There's nothing, when I spoke with that lawyer, when I was in the mastermind, the reality is I can't patent my retreats, there are tons of people that lead retreats very similar to mine. I can trademark certain words and phrases and stuff like that, of course. But in terms of like, now the layout is something that Dylan and I have now worked very hard at over the last 3 years to figure out what is the best possible way to support our clients. I just said, over the last 3 years, Dylan and I have tried to figure out, it has taken 3 years for us to get to this point in time that we're like, fuck yeah, we have perfected understanding this layout. Originality. Authentically, it took us 3 years to get here, right? And so in terms of, and of course, it's kind of like, but there are tons of retreats out there that have ayahuasca and cacao and combo and San Pedro, and they do meditation and they come to Peru. So that's where this fine line comes in of, okay, well, I want to find my mark that sets us apart. And we have certain things that now set us apart, not just the layout for the retreat, but things that we also do alongside the retreat that set us apart from other retreats. Super cool. We stood with a friend maybe 2 weekends ago, and he was like, honestly, and I am totally gassing Dylan and I up right now because this person has lived in the Valley for a few years, and they've seen many retreats, gone on many retreats, and it was such an honor, and it was so cool to hear him be like, yeah, I don't know anybody else that does what you guys do. Like, I've never, in my 4 or 5 years of living here, I've never heard of anyone doing that. It took Dylan and I 3 years to figure these little bits and pieces out. And the reality is, as Dylan and I continue to grow, this layout will grow. This experience will grow. And we will continue to shift it with our energy. And that is so beautiful and so fucking important. So when I was having conversations with clients and friends who were also like, yo, this person is using things that I didn't give them permission to use, right? Because there's also that. I don't mind if you want to use my stuff, but at least could you give me credit? And at least could you reach out to me and let me know that you're going to do that? There's this piece, and I hope this friend listens to the podcast, right? There's this piece of common decency, courtesy. It's not that hard to be a kind human and to reach out and say, hey, I totally got this idea from you. How do you feel about this? Or, I love these graphics. Can I use them? I love this poem that you wrote. Can I use it for this? This is my own personal opinion. I do think it's really weird to use a lot of other people's stuff to boost your own business without giving credit to your friends or community members' business. That's kind of crazy. Now, I want to keep your attention for the whole conversation. So let's move into why this could be unsafe. There's a few different reasons, and there's a few different areas that I come at from it. So we can look at one side, which is the energetics, just in general, energetics. So we can look at rituals and spells and energy healing and all that jazz. And then the other side that I do want to look at is the plant medicine industry. And when we copy either of these offerings, experiences, and we don't have the understanding of how to hold space for them, we put people at risk. And I understand you might really like someone's offering, and you're like, I could totally do that, but if you don't have the training to do these things, you should not. You can learn, you can take the time, you can take years to build up that toolbox. It's taken me so many years to build up my toolbox and build up my business. And that's why my business is where my business is at right now. That's why my life is at where my life is at right now. Because I've taken the time to understand these things, right? Like, my journey of my business officially, quote unquote, started 5 years ago. My experience of understanding mysticism and energy work started in my own practices in 2010. That's a long time ago now. Fuck, that's crazy. It's a long time ago now. And so Now, when we look at both of these sides, let's talk the energy healing and all that jazz first. People don't understand and recognize that rituals, spell work, and energy healing, if you don't understand the severity of it, you can fuck people up. And I know there's Pinterest and there's TikTok and there's Twitter, and they have all these like really cute and cookie cutter type of spells and rituals. And I'm not saying that some of those aren't great, but you need to develop. Again, these are all my opinions because I'm saying you need, right? I believe you should develop your skill set first before working on other people. Before teaching other people what to do, you should understand how this could backfire. I have another one of these friend clients, right? Because once the years start to build up, people turn into friends, right? And they said the kindest thing to me on my birthday last year. And they said, I just wanted, first off, they wished me a happy birthday. And second off, they were like, I just wanted to say, like, as the years have gone on, like, I just wanted to thank you so much that when I started doing this type of work, you were so in your own integrity. You explained and weren't exploiting any of us for our energy. Like, you really came at it from a place of you understood your craft work. You understood your toolbox and what you could work with, which allowed them to know what they could work with. And how, I guess, over the last few years or so, they've had the experience of working with certain people that maybe did not have the precautions or understanding of what they were sharing with a group of people. That's fucking crazy. Could you imagine sharing this type of work with people and not understanding the severity of what you are teaching them? I personally cannot understand that. That to me sounds like an extremely irresponsible practitioner. Again, these are all my opinions. I stand by them, but they're my opinions. You might have your own, but I stand by me doing that. So that's in terms of like spirituality and like, not spirituality, but in terms of like ritual and energy healing and all that jazz. Ooh, somebody, a community member of mine wrote in a post yesterday, which I loved, that there are people that practice Reiki that don't actually have any training in the lineage. They have no understanding of energy work, but they'll say, I do Reiki energy healing. At this point, I have so many different energy healings under my belt that I usually don't say that I'm a Reiki master and do Reiki energy healing. I usually just say energy healing because it encapsulates all of the things that I do. Now, if we look over here at this side, this is the plant medicine side. In the ritual and spell work area as well, you can, a friend client, another one of those, the other day had said to me, again, I've been having a lot of these conversations. They said to me, you know, if ritual and spell work was a lot more like Harry Potter, then maybe people would understand how detrimental not understanding what you're doing can be. And then she said, I wonder if that happens for you in plant medicine. Is there a way that you guys can see it? And there is a way that we can see it. If you've ever been to a place that is unsafe, and that you've heard of people going through like a deep psychosis while they're under, you know, the medicine of ayahuasca. They're screaming out loud. They have no recollection of what they did the next morning. They're bashing their head against the floor. They're spitting at people. They're grabbing at people. They're trying to hurt other people in the space. That can all happen if you don't have the proper tools and you just decide, yeah, I could serve this. I'm gonna wake up and call myself Taita. Spicy. I hope there are people that listen to this that know what I know what I just said. But you can't wake up and just, I'm gonna serve these medicines. Oh my God, like think about combo, dude. Like the idea that people don't have a combo training under their belt but serve combo or don't understand the science aspects. The medicine that I serve is cacao. I understand the amount of science that I can understand, and I recognize what dosages I need to serve, and it's not a psychedelic. And there's a reason why I don't serve any psychedelics or any medicines that require me to have more scientific knowledge. And there's a reason why Dylan serves San Pedro, Wachuma, and Combo, because Dylan originally went to school. He was on track for pre-med. And then he said yeet at the last second and then decided to get a psychology degree. So over all these years, which he graduates on Sunday, which is super exciting. But all these years, he's taken the time to, at one point, get all this scientific knowledge and then other scientific knowledge. And he's been able to continue studying and reads medical journals. I will not ever serve combo or psychedelics because guess what? This bitch cannot fucking read a medical journal. And I feel like that would be irresponsible of me to serve if I can't grasp it. Math and science, rough. Very, very rough. I can understand the super hippy-dippy spirituality, like astral projection and quantum physics and like in terms of like quantum leaping, you know? But when Dylan starts talking about the peptides with combo, I'm smiling, but nothing's happening upstairs. Nothing's happening upstairs. But I know my limits. I know who I am. I wouldn't decide, ooh, you know what? This is a cool offering that Dylan gives and makes money from it. I should do the same offering if I can acquire the things that I need. To me, that's an irresponsible practitioner. Now, there's a lot of layers. It's a lot of layers, onions, to this conversation that we're having right now. Like I said, there is a fine line between, like, obviously all of my teachers that have came before me, that have taught me from the beginning of my spiritual journey, their work shines through me in some way, shape, or form. But I do my best to not have it be, I went to workshop A and now I'm doing workshop A 2.0. That's the point of it. And it's also, I've gotten to the point where having these conversations with people that, like, I'm not training you. I love that you guys decided to come to this cacao ceremony today. I'm not training you guys in how to, like, serve cacao. That's not my job here. So if you go off and tell people, yeah, I go to dance ceremonies and now I serve cacao, like, whoa, don't put that on me, dude. When I do, spell work and ritual work with clients, by the way, like, I am not training you. This is not a training. You came here to receive a service. You're receiving the service. Receive the fucking service and integrate for however long you need. When you feel like you are ready to get into offering these things, look into trainings. Look into studying with teachers for longer periods of time. I think there's something so beautiful about studying under teachers for long periods of time where they become like a mentor, basically. And, there are different things where most of my one-to-one clients right now will say, like, oh, like, that work with me monthly, they feel like they're in a mentorship with me. And in some ways, that's what ends up coming out of it. We focus on one thing specifically, and maybe for them, originally they thought that was going to be spirituality, but it becomes business. Maybe they thought it was going to be business, but then it becomes spirituality. But there are also teachers that over time, this is a totally different conversation, but the conversation of, and I know that Harshita Wegner put out a video yesterday talking about, like, when you decide to become a practitioner or when you take that vow to be a teacher, you vow to be a teacher as often as you can, even if there's no payment involved, right? And, he spoke about the fact that, like, students come in and out, right, over the years. And I, as a student of some of my teachers, have came in and out. There are times where I need to learn from them, times where I need to integrate, times where I need to learn, integrate. But the thing is, it's important to specify. Like, the last time I reached out to one of my mentors, we were specifically talking about me being her mentee underneath something specific that I already had training in, but I wanted more training on. It was a specific conversation. It made it clear, it made it cut, and like, boom, this is what I'm looking for. And of course you can get into mentorship and along the way figure out what it is. But to reel this conversation back in, the idea of just going to a class and then regurgitating it, to me, I don't think that is signs of a safe practitioner. unless you've been doing it for a long time, but also where's the originality and authenticity in who you are? Because when people sign up to come on retreats with Dylan and I, they're also, I remember a while ago at one of the retreats, one of our participants was having a really difficult ayahuasca journey and needed help going to the bathroom. And as we were coming back in, as we were walking out of the bathroom, they turned over to me and they were like, I just wish you and Dylan could serve the ayahuasca too. Like, I just want to be with you guys all the time. Like, I just want to be in all the spaces that you guys create. People are paying for our energy because they also see the beauty, or at least I think they see the beauty in our authenticity and originality and who we are and what we have studied, what we provide to the world, and what we hope we are giving to the people that come and sit with us. So, in a closing statement, I think that this is a very difficult conversation, but if you have, and this is my own opinion again, if you have community members that you feel are just doing things without any trainings, and you decide that they are not a community member of yours, and maybe you bring it up to them and you try to have a conversation with them about it, and it doesn't go so well because they don't really give a fuck, or it's like deflected or whatever. There are tons of other practitioners out there that create things from their inner world and put it out. And if you're one of those people who feels like, but if I don't have the offering out there in the world, I'm gonna like lose my chance or lose my spot, you're potentially putting yourself and other people in harm's way just for you to stick with the status quo instead of waiting for the time to come organically. So it's just up to you. Which side do you want to be on? And that's my closing statement. This is a very layered conversation. So if you've listened to this on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, please like, share, comment, do something with this video because it really makes a difference for our community. If you're not already signed up for our email list, then I would get signed up for our email list so you can know about our offerings. And please comment below, what does this make you think of? Was it just a good conversation for you to listen to? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have your own thoughts? Have you experienced this in your own practice? Have you experienced this in your own journey? And knowing that I don't think any of us are right or wrong. And that's a really hard, that's a really hard reality to come to because everyone's going to do what they think is right. And right ethics and doing the right thing are subjective to the person that you're speaking to. But if you feel like you resonate more with what I'm saying, there is community out there for you. We're just really spread out. And this is why we choose to have these conversations on the internet. So maybe we can, bring our energies together in the physical. Many blessings to you and to yours.